This week's royal visit marks King Charles's first to Canada since his coronation 2 years ago. And while the royal couple will only be in the country for about 24 hours, this visit is significant. Joining me now to talk more about the whirlwind visit is CTV royal commentator Richard Berthelsen. Richard, good to speak with you.
Happy to be here.
First, give us an idea of just how symbolic this visit is, from the throne speech to all of the appearances the royal couple will make.
Well, I mean, this is the first visit of the king to Canada since he has succeeded to the throne. So there was always going to be a really high degree of symbolism and a value to the trip. I mean, it was supposed to take place a year ago, but unfortunately the king contracted a form of cancer that, he's been treated for since that time, and that visit was postponed. Now, since then, we've always also had the arrival of Donald Trump on the scene, and so we have a real existential threat to Canada's sovereignty, our economy, and the way that we have operated in the last few years. So this trip has taken on much greater dimensions because of that, because the trip is really focusing on Canadian sovereignty and really promoting a strong sense of Canadian identity. So the speech from the throne tomorrow provides an opportunity for the king to really articulate the government's policies in his voice, and that is going to have impact for our American friends, but it's going to have impact worldwide, because the presence of the king here in Canada is a global news story.
What kind of impression is the king hoping to make, not only here, but abroad as well?
Well, I think there's a strong domestic audience. Canadians want to hear the king speak about the sovereignty issue and the threats that have come to Canada, and they'll hear that in the speech tomorrow, although that speech is composed by the government. But the king has an interest in continuing to engage with Canadians. He's been here 19 times over the past 55 years. His very first trip was to Ottawa in the north and Manitoba, actually, in 1970, to mark the centenary of Manitoba and the Northwest Territories, with his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, his father, and his sister. So he's really engaged with Canadians in all parts of the country over a long period of time. 10 prime ministers, 10 governors general, multiple premiers, many different leaders of all types in Canada, and he wants to re-engage with them. So you see him today undertaking official audiences with various governmental officials, but also visiting with Canadians in a farmer's market and a flea market in downtown Ottawa, and tomorrow he'll be laying a wreath at the National War Memorial to commemorate Canadian war dead. So he is touching various different points during the period he's time. Again, it's only 24 hours because this trip has come on really a little bit out of the blue, and it had to be arranged at short notice and when Parliament started to meet. So the king made this opportunity in his schedule, which I'm sure was not an easy thing to do.
Now, I understand in his role as head of state, the king is expected to avoid straying too much into politics, but this visit clearly meant to send a message to President Trump. So is it a bit of a tricky balancing act for the king?
It is a very tricky balancing act because the king is king of 15 countries, and they all have different relationships with the United States. They have a little bit different relationships with each other. We know the British have been enthusiastic about a state visit that the king would host, whereas Canada would not be doing that, although the president will be in Canada at Kananaskis this summer for the G7 conference. So the king is treading a very tricky set of circumstances, but we have to understand that he's one individual with 15 different crowns, and those crowns have different needs and they have different governments advising it. So when we have this situation, it's really advantageous for the king to be on Canadian soil when he's clearly acting as King of Canada in a way he may not do when he's in the United Kingdom. I think also it was essential that the king be seen in Canada undertaking this first official visit to this country as king before he saw President Trump in the United Kingdom or before he visits the United States. So that's another dynamic that's at work in the scheduling of this visit.
Very exciting whirlwind royal visit. Richard, thanks so much for your take on it. Great speaking with you.
Pleasure.